When a Canadian Prime Minister signs up to $5.5 billion in commercial agreements with India, at a time when diplomatic tensions are still unresolved, that is not routine diplomacy. That is strategic repositioning. Prime Minister Mark Carney traveled to India, met with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and announced a series of agreements that could reshape Canada's trade footprint in the Indo-Pacific. But this visit is not just about money. It's about diversification. It's about geopolitical balance. And it's about how Canada positions itself in a world where economic alliances are shifting rapidly. Let's begin with what was formally announced.
10 commercial agreements worth up to $5.5 billion, according to the paperwork they've provided us here. Interesting, one of these has to do with cultural exchanges, students, faculty exchanges. We know Canada has missed the business of Indian foreign students.
The headline number, $5.5 billion, carries weight. But what matters more is what sits underneath it. These are commercial agreements and memorandums of understanding. Some are immediate, others require follow-through negotiations. A broader economic partnership agreement is targeted within a year. That tells us this visit is not an endpoint, it's a starting line. Now, one component stands out above the rest: uranium.
Expansion. As you've seen, the government of India and Cameco have signed a major $2.6 billion uranium supply agreement supporting India's nuclear ambitions and our shared commitment to clean, reliable.
That uranium agreement is not symbolic, it is structural. India's energy demand is projected to double by 2040. Urbanization is accelerating, industrial capacity is expanding, electrification is deepening. India cannot meet that demand through renewables alone. Nuclear power is central to its long-term energy mix. And Canada is one of the world's most reliable uranium suppliers. This creates long-term interdependence, not a one-time sale. For Saskatchewan, it means sustained production and employment. For India, it means energy security. For Canada's broader strategy, it means embedding itself into India's long-term infrastructure expansion. Now let's zoom out. For decades, Canada's trade dependence on the United States has hovered around 75% of exports. That integration is beneficial, but it also creates vulnerability. Recent tariff tensions have reminded Canadians how quickly trade uncertainty can surface. Diversification is no longer a theoretical policy goal. It is an economic necessity. India offers scale that few markets can match. 1.4 billion people, a rapidly expanding middle class, a technology sector growing at global scale. Aggressive renewable energy targets of 500 gigawatts by 2030. And this is where Carney's language becomes important.
So, this is not merely the renewal of a relationship. It is the expansion of a valued partnership with new ambition, focus, and foresight. A partnership between two confident countries charting our own course.
Not merely renewal, expansion. That phrase signals ambition. Canada is not just restoring diplomatic ties after strain. It is attempting to build a deeper economic architecture. But this strategy exists within political complexity. There are unresolved allegations tied to foreign interference concerns and the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar on Canadian soil. Those issues remain sensitive domestically. CBC raised that tension directly.
Hardeep Singh Nijjar, which of course was the reason for a real fracturing in Canada-India diplomatic relations in the first place. It is controversial to be deepening your trade relationship while these facts are still coming to the surface and people.
That question reflects a legitimate concern. Can economic cooperation expand while serious investigations remain active? The government's approach appears to be dual track. Continue engagement, advance trade negotiations, maintain security investigations independently. This is a delicate balance. If Canada disengages entirely, it limits economic opportunity. If it proceeds without acknowledging security concerns, public trust erodes. So Ottawa is attempting calibrated engagement. That is not weakness. That is statecraft. Now consider the broader geopolitical environment. The global economy is fragmenting into regional blocks. Supply chains are being redesigned. Energy security is becoming national security. Critical minerals are strategic assets. And India is positioning itself as a central growth hub in the Indo-Pacific. Canada, meanwhile, possesses vast uranium reserves, critical minerals essential for EV batteries, mining expertise, with roughly 40% of global mining firms listed in Canada, strong clean energy research capacity. The alignment is not accidental, it is strategic complementarity. But beyond trade, there is something even more powerful: people. Nearly 2 million Canadians trace roots to India. Roughly 400,000 Indian students study in Canada, more than in the US or UK. Those human connections create economic bridges that are far more durable than tariff schedules. Education flows become business networks. Diaspora communities become trade facilitators. Technology partnerships grow from academic collaboration. Now let's briefly acknowledge the broader framework formalized during the visit.
Three MOUs, namely the MOU on critical mineral cooperation, the MOU on promoting the use of renewable energy, and the MOU on cultural cooperation. These documents will be exchanged by the Honorable Anita Anand, Minister of...
Those agreements extend beyond uranium: critical minerals cooperation, renewable energy collaboration, cultural exchange, defense dialogue, technology innovation, even trilateral cooperation with Australia. That breadth matters because it reduces risk concentration. If one sector slows, others continue. Now let's examine the economic upside in measurable terms. If Canada successfully finalizes a comprehensive economic partnership agreement within the next year, tariff barriers could decrease significantly. Canadian energy exports could diversify beyond North America. Mining investment flows could increase. Technology partnerships could scale. Agricultural exports could expand into a growing consumer market. For Canadian businesses, that means optionality, and optionality is power. However, risks remain. India's regulatory environment can be complex. Trade negotiations can stall. Geopolitical shifts can disrupt timelines. Domestic political scrutiny in Canada will remain strong. This is not a risk-free strategy, but neither is over-reliance on a single market. That is the core strategic calculation. Diversification spreads exposure. Now consider something else: optics. Carney's tone throughout the visit was calm, measured, and structured. No dramatic gestures, no confrontational rhetoric. That tone is designed for investors. Markets react to volatility. They reward predictability. By emphasizing stability, Carney signals that Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy is long-term, not reactive. That messaging matters in capital markets. It reassures global investors that Canada remains steady even when geopolitical tensions exist. Ultimately, this visit represents a pivot moment, not away from the United States, but toward a more balanced portfolio of trade relationships. If successful, Canada becomes less vulnerable to tariff shocks, more integrated into Indo-Pacific growth, more influential in clean energy supply chains. If unsuccessful, it remains dependent on North American trade flows. The $5.5 billion announcement is not the final result. It is the opening move. Execution will determine outcome. Negotiations must conclude. Security issues must be handled responsibly. Economic momentum must be sustained. But strategically, this signals that Canada is thinking beyond immediate headlines. It is planning for 2030, for 2040, for long-term positioning in a multipolar economic world. And that is why this visit matters. Not because of the headline number alone, but because of what it represents: strategic diversification, calculated engagement, long-term energy interdependence, and a careful balancing of economics and national security. We will continue tracking how these agreements develop and whether the broader partnership solidifies into a comprehensive trade framework. From a Canadian perspective, this is about stability, opportunity, and strategic foresight.